Hi, I'm Macey, one of your registered dietitians, and I am so happy that you're here to join me for our Kids Cook at Home class today. Today we will be making 3 delightful Valentine's Day themed treats. I'm so excited, so let's go ahead and get started. As always, we will start with washing our hands, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so today we are going to start with our recipe for the frozen yogurt cups. So I have my strawberries here. For this recipe, we'll only be using about half of these strawberries, but we'll actually be using the other half in one of our other recipes that we'll be making towards the end of today's class. So we're gonna start today by going ahead and prepping all the strawberries. So we'll go ahead and wash those right now. Right, so I have went ahead and washed our strawberries under running water, so they're good to go. And I have divided them into 2 bowls, one of which, like I said, we'll use for this recipe for the frozen yogurt cups, and the other we will use for the punch. So we'll start with the strawberries for the punch. What we'll be doing with those strawberries is it calls for strawberry halves. So what we'll do is we'll take the strawberry with our fingers away from the knife in what we call a claw grip. We're going to cut the top of the strawberry off. And then we're going to put the strawberry down like so, and then cut it in half. And that's all there is to that. And then we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of that bowl, cutting those in halves. You can pause here if you'd like to. I'm gonna finish with those strawberries. All right, so I have went ahead and halved all of those strawberries in that bowl. So we are going to move on to the strawberries that we are using for our frozen yogurt cups. And for these strawberries, we are going to be dicing them. So there are a few more steps involved with dicing. So we'll start the same way that we started with the last strawberries. Again, with our claw grip, we're gonna cut off the top. And then we'll cut our strawberry in half. And then facing this flat side down, we are just going to cut them into strips. So slicing them like so, and then lining them up here. And then we're going to dice them into a little bit smaller. So this is how they should look when we're done dicing them. And again, you can go ahead and continue dicing with the rest of the strawberries. You can pause here while I go ahead and dice those strawberries myself. As you dice, you can have your 2 measuring cups out and ready to go. We'll be using 1/2 cup for the base of the frozen yogurt cups, and then 1/3 cup will be used for the topping. All right, I have set the strawberries aside and we are going to move on to the next step. I've pulled out a muffin tin and we are going to go ahead and take some muffin liners and put 1 in each slot. And now that we have our muffin liners in our muffin tin, we can go ahead and grab our granola. I pre-measured mine out. You can choose any flavor granola that you like. I chose a berry to go with our strawberry theme, and take 1 tablespoon and put about 1 tablespoon into each muffin liner. You can pause here to fill each muffin liner. All right, I have completed filling each muffin liner with the granola, so we can go ahead and set this aside and we will move to the next step. So now we are going to take a medium-sized mixing bowl and our 3 cups of yogurt. We're going to go ahead and pour our yogurt into that bowl. And then add our 1/2 cup of diced strawberries. Go ahead and fold those over until it's nice and combined. All right, so this looks great. We're going to go grab our muffin tin and then we're gonna go ahead and start filling our muffin tin with the yogurt mixture. All right, so our next step is to scoop our yogurt base on top of the granola that we have already placed in the muffin liners. So I'm using a 1/4 measuring cup. About that much will work well. And so we can go ahead and scoop and plop that right on top. And then I'm going to follow with a spoon. We can just smooth on the top just to make a nice even layer across the top. And then you can go ahead and continue doing that to the rest of the cups and pause here if you need to. I'm going to finish doing that as well. So once you have completed filling all of your muffin liners with the yogurt mixture, then we can move to the next step, which is to add the toppings to each one. So we have the remaining of our diced strawberries and then some extra granola as well. So with that, we'll take the strawberries first, about a teaspoon added to the top of each one. And you can add it right on top and then just lightly push it down. And then we can move on and do the same with the granola. And for the granola, you can do roughly the same amount, about 1 to 2 teaspoons on top of each. All right, so our toppings are complete on our frozen yogurt cups. Well, soon to be frozen. So now we will place them in the freezer for 1 to 3 hours until they're firm, and then we will move on to our next recipe. All right, we are going to move into our next recipe, which is our heart-shaped veggie pizza. I already went ahead and cut the parchment paper and placed it on a baking sheet, and I also preheated the oven to 425. So go ahead and do both of those things if you have not already. And then we are going to start by preparing the vegetables that are in this recipe. So go ahead and wash your bell pepper and your broccoli, and wash your hands while you're at it as well, and then meet me back here. So I have washed both veggies, and we are going to start with cutting the red bell pepper. So for this recipe, we are going to dice the bell pepper. So starting out, we are going to cut off the top of the pepper. Side, and then we're going to flip the bell pepper like so and just begin cutting on the sides. And then you can go ahead and toss the center. From there, we are going to flip the pieces of bell pepper that we cut off, and we are going to cut them into slices or strips. And then a reminder to always use that claw grip, keeping your fingers away from the knife. So we have our nice strips just like this, and then we're going to turn them, keep them bunched together, and then we're going to cut them into even smaller pieces, just like we did with our strawberries, and dice them. All right, and then you can continue on with the bell pepper. We need about a half cup, but that's depending on how much bell pepper you want on your pizzas. And then that also reminds me that today I am using the broccoli, the carrots, and then also the bell pepper, but you can put any vegetables on top of your veggie pizza that you desire. So go ahead and continue cutting those up. All right, and now that I have my bell pepper diced in the amounts that I want, I'm going to move on to the broccoli. And so the broccoli we are going to chop. So you can start by pulling away some leaves if you have a broccoli head like this. Otherwise, if you have the bagged florets, then you will not need to do this step. And then you can just lay it on the cutting board, and I'm going to just cut up close to the top of the broccoli. Down. And then from there, we can just go ahead and cut these florets into smaller pieces and get them chopped. So you can pause here and go ahead and chop the rest of your broccoli. All right, so I have finished chopping my broccoli. You will notice that I have some leftovers of both the broccoli and the peppers. I am going to give you an idea on how to use those later for a later time, another snack. For now, I'm gonna go wash my hands and we'll meet back here. So I have set those prepared veggies aside so we can move on to the next step, which is to prepare our pizza dough. So I have a pre-made pizza dough. Have an adult help you open this, and then also go ahead and grab out your baking sheet with the parchment paper, and then we can meet back here for the next step. Once you have your pizza dough out, we can go ahead and grab a rolling pin. And now we are going to roll out the dough. And we just want to make sure that when we're doing that, that we keep it an even thickness so that when we put it in the oven, it cooks evenly. So you can go ahead and just start rolling. And once you have it rolled out to your desired thickness and it's even, then we can go ahead and grab our heart-shaped cookie cutter. So I have my heart-shaped cookie cutter, and it is definitely okay if you don't have a heart-shaped cookie cutter on hand. You can use any shape that you wish, or you can even go ahead and just cut these into squares as well if you don't have a cookie cutter. So with the cookie cutter that you have, you can go ahead and start pressing it into the dough. And some of your hearts might not be perfect, just like mine, that's okay. And then we're going to go ahead and some of these you might have to push down a little bit harder if they didn't cut all the way through, but then you can go ahead and remove the edge. Pick up your pieces and transfer them over to the baking sheet. So you can go ahead and pause to do that, and then we will go ahead and once we're done with that, place them into the oven, which has been preheated at 425, and we'll bake them for 4 to 6 minutes or until they're slightly brown. Once your crusts have been baked, you can pull them out of the oven like I have done, and we are going to set them aside to cool. And then we are going to move on to our next step, which is to make the topping for our pizzas. Okay, so our pizza crusts are cooling now, and we are going to go ahead and make that topping. So we are going to make a cottage cheese topping for the top of those pizzas. So I have all my ingredients out here. We are going to use spinach, olive oil, garlic powder, cottage cheese, and artichoke hearts. So we're actually going to just dump all of this into our blender here. So you can go ahead and do that. Right, so then you can go ahead and blend that until it has a smooth texture. So if your blender decides that it doesn't want to cooperate today, similar to how mine did, we can go ahead and use an immersion blender, which I am going to do. So I transferred our mixture into a bowl, and I'm going to use the immersion blender to further blend that to a more smooth texture, which we're looking for. Once we have that smooth texture, we're going to add our Parmesan to that mixture, and we're just going to mix that together. All right, great. So this topping is ready to go. We have the vegetables that we prepared and our pizza crust. So grab all of those ingredients and bring them back, and we're going to start assembling our pizzas. To start assembling our pizzas, we are going to put about 2 tablespoons of our topping on each pizza. So we can go ahead and do that. And then I am just going to use the back of a spoon to spread that out across the whole pizza. Like this. And then continue on and do that for all of the remaining pizzas. All right, so I have completed putting the topping on each pizza. I'm going to move that to the side and take our veggies down here. And then just a note that I did purchase the matchstick carrots, so we did not have to do any prep to those, but if you have other carrots, you can definitely cut them up into smaller pieces for the topping. So from there, we're just going to go ahead and top our pizzas with these veggies. You can put as much as you'd like of each one, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to sprinkle each one with the different vegetables. All right, so our heart-shaped pizzas are ready to go. They're all done. And before, I know we had talked about those leftover veggies, and as you can see, you probably have some leftover dip as well. And the great thing is that this dip can be reused, and I think it pairs perfectly with vegetables, so you can store that away in your fridge for a snack at a later time. So I'm going to set these aside, and then we will move to our final recipe. So let's go ahead and start our last recipe for today. I have went ahead and measured out the 1.5 cups of unsweetened frozen strawberries. Just make sure that those are defrosted. So those are in the bowl here. And then we are going to use our immersion blender again and go ahead and blend those up. All right, so now that our strawberries have that smooth, creamy texture, then the puree is ready to go. I am going to grab my other ingredients that we need for this punch, and then we will finish off the punch recipe. All right, so I have our remaining ingredients here, and so we are going to combine everything in our pitcher. So I will start with our pineapple juice. We are going to measure that in a liquid measuring cup. And anytime that we are measuring liquids, we want to get eye level with the line so we can see that it's even. So we'll measure out the 3 cups, getting nice and even with the lines here. Go. Pour that in. And then I have seltzer water here, and we're going to do the same thing, the 3 cups. And then we are going to go ahead and grab our halved strawberries that we prepared at the beginning of today's class and our strawberry puree. And you may want to have actually put this in first because it may splash a little now that the liquids are in. We'll try to be careful. And we'll add our strawberries. And then go ahead and give that a stir. Get it all stirred up. And then Your strawberry Valentine's Day punch is complete. And for the punch, I do not have any ice in our pitcher, but you can go ahead and serve this over ice in a cup. Thank you so much for joining me today to make some delicious Valentine's Day treats. We love to see photos of your little chefs at work in the kitchen, so if you post anything on your social media, please tag us. And don't forget to fill out our after-class survey. If you fill it out, you will be entered in a drawing for a chance to win a gift card to one of our stores. I hope that you have a fabulous Valentine's Day. Our next class is in April, and we can't wait to see you then.